Folks, there was no red wave last night in the United States. Republicans have been whining and crying because they did not destroy Democrats on the national and the state level. A lot of races we're going to be breaking down, showing you what took place. Of course, we had 7.5 hours of live coverage on the Black Star Network last night. Now we're seeing the after effects of that. One of the races, though, that was called today, that is the U.S. Senate race in Wisconsin, where Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes was trying to unseat incumbent Senator Ron Johnson. He fell less than 30,000 votes short of that. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Gwen Moore of Wisconsin. Congresswoman, glad to have you on the show. One of the things that we saw last night, and maybe you can shed some light on this, and that is that Milwaukee somehow had less turnout than it did 4 years ago. I saw one tweet that had about 214,000 4 years ago, about 176,000 this year. When you look at what happened in Wisconsin that Barnes was not able to upset Ron Johnson?
Well, thanks for letting me roll with you today, Roland. I just want to start out by saying that we are very, very proud of Mandela Barnes. I know there's no silver medal that someone gets in these sort of contests, but this was a statewide race. It wasn't just a Milwaukee County race. It was a statewide race. And out of the 2.6 million ballots cast, Mandela lost by 27,000 votes. So that, of course, is very heartbreaking. There are always places where he could have performed better. I think the governor performed better in some rural places. I think the turnout in Milwaukee was higher than it was in 2018. 2016 was the first year that we had the photo ID implemented after decades of struggling, and that disenfranchised many people. So I think that that's sort of an unfair standard. I think I think Mandela ran a campaign. I want you to understand that the population of Wisconsin of African Americans is 6%. And so Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes won statewide with a really broad coalition of people. And so, yes, we wish we could have gotten more votes out from everywhere. But I don't want to demonize the people of the city of Milwaukee.
Oh, no. I'm not. Here's the whole deal. I mean, and the reason we're asking the questions, when we start talking about in terms of votes and how things happen, because, we're also looking to okay, when you begin to study, same thing. We're breaking down, same thing in North Carolina. Sheriff Beasley lost by 135,000 votes. What we're looking at is, okay, black areas, what was happening in those places. Tim Ryan losing in Ohio. So I'm just curious in terms of when you're analyzing the election, where were the votes, where you could have done better here, which then goes to strategy, resources being put in. What I was hearing that in mid-October, Chuck Schumer's PAC was deciding between, do we put money into Mandela Barnes, do we put money into Sheriff Beasley? They decided at that point, it looks like Barnes is going to lose. We're going to go with Beasley. Well, guess what happened? Barnes loses by 27,000 votes. She loses about 135,000 votes. So really, what it should have been, we're going to put money in both races. It shouldn't have been either or.
And that's exactly the point. When you say we lost by 20, there were a lot of resources put into Milwaukee. But Barnes ran a really, grassroots campaign. He texted everybody, every 5 minutes asking them for money. He didn't take so-called corporate PAC money. Which, he was an honest politician with a lot of integrity. And, literally on our doorsteps every day, we saw the volumes of lies that super PACs put out on the behalf of Ron Johnson, tried to blame Mandela Barnes for the heinous murder of people at a suburban parade by, saying that he wasn't for cash bail, and really not really being spent by $65 million being spent. This is one of the most expensive in the country. And so that's one of the things. Another thing that my son, Representative Supreme Moore Mukunde, State Representative Supreme Moore Mukunde, raises with me all the time is that we have got to put some resources where we won't be compromised into political education. We can't just tell people who are often living at the margins. One of the problems we have in Wisconsin is that half of Wisconsinites are rent burdened. I mean, they're paying 50% of their income for rent, 75% of their income for rent. And so, even though we've done a really good job of knocking on doors and canvassing, you know, I've been there.
Yep.
Knocking on my door talking about some election just has no competition with how I'm gonna get some diapers for the baby. You know, you know, you know, I ain't got no Similac. I need a babysitter so I can get to work. And I'm saying that these are the kinds of things that we need to just. So it's political education.
Well,
Uh,
and
so,
that,
yeah.
to that particular point there, and this is one of the things that we constantly talk about, on this show. The issues that you're talking about, yeah, you had a lot of attention on the issue of abortion. Totally understand that. A lot of attention on inflation in the economy, but this is one of those things where what we kept saying is that how Democrats also speak. If you're talking about, capping insulin at $35, you got to be able, when you're knocking on those doors, say, hey, how much are you spending on insulin for your mama, for your daddy, for your grandmother, for your grandfather? If you're spending $400 a month, we tried to cap it at 35. The Republicans stopped us. If you capped it at 35, that's now an additional $365 in your pocket every single month. Multiply that by 12. We're not talking about almost $5,000. And so it's really sort of connecting with folks that way. And so, so again, what we're talking about is how do we sit here and look at results where you lose? How do you then do better? Because here's what's going to happen. Tammy Baldwin is going to be up for reelection. Democrats got to hold onto that particular seat, studying in terms of what happened there. And also, and again, for us, I'm just like going to be real anal about this, about trying to get people to understand we have to maximize black turnout. We can ill afford to be voting 40, 45, 50%. We've got to be driving our numbers 65, 68, 70, 75% in order to offset what's happening in other communities. If we're frankly below 70%, what we're doing is we're actually shooting ourselves in the head.
Well, you're absolutely right, Roland. We do have to maximize turnout, and again, political education is the fact. And again, money is the problem. But despite money, those of us who are elected officials, we've had a pandemic, but we actually do need to spend more time just basically on political education.
Yep.
Um, you know, we would have never Obama would have never suffered the shellacking
Yep.
during his first midterm election if people had understood the importance of health care and what Obamacare was all about.
Yep.
Now it's very popular.
Yep.
And as Joe Biden has pointed out, we've done a lot for Democrats, and we've had the most productive Congress since back in Lyndon Baines Johnson, 1965, with all the stuff that we have done for black people and all kind of people lately. But those things, capping insulin, for example, as you pointed out, that won't start until next year. So people will not experience and feel the results of that. We
Yep.
just did the right thing because it was the right thing to do. And when we haven't been able to harvest the benefit of that, and then people don't know what you've done unless you let them know.
Yeah, you gotta tell them. I mean, that's just, and again, I think what often happens is a lot of stuff happens in D.C. And folks like, oh, we did this. No. It's like Joe Madison said, you gotta put it where the goats can get it. You gotta make it plain. And I think that's a part of this. And look, I agree with you. I've been saying for years here, look, we need Schoolhouse Rock 2.0. A lot of people simply don't understand basic civics and in terms of how do you connect the dots. And so that's also critically important. Final point with you. Again, folks, go to my iPad. This is the results here. You see right here, y'all, 27,000 votes separated the two. But there was a bright spot, Congresswoman Moore. The governor was reelected there. You had the Republican candidate who was literally saying that, oh, if I win, we will never lose a race. They were focused on rigging the election, and you have now Tony Evers, who's reelected there. That is crucially important there too.
Oh my God. I mean, we were saved to have had incumbent Governor Evers reelected and our Attorney General, Josh Call, reelected just very narrowly, about as narrowly as the governor or the difference between Ron Johnson. And so there was no blowout here. There was no red wave, as it were. You know, like you said, you know, literally Mandela has fallen within the margin of error where he could ask for a recount. But his data team and stuff, they have figured that there was really no challenge that could be upheld. But it was really that close. I just want to point something else out. Russ Feingold, 2 times junior senator from Wisconsin, and was first defeated in 2012 by Ron Johnson, lost by 100,000 votes. And then he ran again in 2016 and beat Russ Feingold again by 100,000 votes. And so Mandela lost by 27,000 votes. So you
Yep.
can argue that a loss is a loss, but he lost by 27,000 votes in a state where Black people are not the majority. So I am proud of the coalitions we were able to build. And even though I'll just have to say, Ron Johnson ran one of the most racist campaigns
He did.
since what's my boy's name that had Willie Horton up there. And I mean, his closing argument to people was that Mandela Barnes talks about institutional racism. Do you want somebody representing you that call all of our institutions racist? He's a racist. I mean, he darkened his skin. They were foghorns of racism blowing through this entire thing, and I'm very disappointed. Less for Mandela and more for the citizens of the state of Wisconsin that we have to endure him. He's a terrible senator.
And here's the deal, and what I say to Black folks in Wisconsin, give his ass hell for the next 6 years at every turn. Just because the election is over doesn't mean that you're still not a constituent, and so that has to happen. Congresswoman Gwen Moore, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I love Mandela. He's unbought and unbossed. And that's one of the reasons he didn't have a whole lot of money, dark money and stuff. This man had integrity. He was smart. He's as good as any of the wonderful candidates all over the country that didn't prevail, like Supreme Court Shirley Beasley, my good friend Val Demings, my brother Tim Ryan. He was a great candidate, and I just want your audience to know that.
All right, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right, folks, as we said, we're looking at all these different races. Go to my iPad, please. We're looking at the Arizona race, governor there, Katie Hobbs, Democrat, narrow lead against Carrie Lake, the crazy MAGA Republican there. Lots of mail-in ballots there in Arizona. Remember, Republicans tried to get rid of that. And so it's going to be a while. Only 67% of the vote is in there in Arizona. So we're still watching that particular race. But we also are watching to see unfold because you see it right here. This is the New York Times. As it stands right now, the U.S. Senate, it is 48 Democrats, 48 Republicans. You have a couple of races outstanding. Actually, 3 races that are outstanding. And what are we looking for? We're looking for this race right here. First of all, you saw last night in Utah, it wasn't close. Mike Lee, he beats Evan McMullen for that particular race there in Utah. But again, what we're also looking at when it comes to these states, folks, right here, I'm going to show you. Let me pull up here in terms of the U.S. Senate races. We're looking at the race in Arizona. Again, 67% of the votes are in. Mark Kelly has a 4-point lead there. He's leading by about 75,000 votes. And so looking good there. Again, we're waiting to see if all the ballots are cast there in Arizona to determine if Democrats are going to hold on to that seat. And then when you begin to look at the Senate races, again, now we talk about what is outstanding And guess what? It is going to come down to really two states, Nevada and Arizona. In Nevada, again, Democrats are hoping there's going to be a treasure trove of mail-in votes there. Adam Laxalt, who is the Republican, he's leading there, 418,000 votes. He's leading by about 20,000 votes against the incumbent Democrat, Catherine Cortez Masto. And again, I've been talking to folks. They say they believe it's looking good for them to be able to come back in that particular race there for the United States Senate. And so let's say Democrats win Arizona. So again, it hasn't been called. Now it goes 49-48. Let's say they win Nevada. It's now 50-48. Now the critical race is going to be this, and that is what we saw, 2 years ago? Georgia. It comes down to Georgia. You see the map right there. Let me go back to it. You see the map right there. All of the places, all the red that you see, that's where Herschel Walker won. Then you see the blue where Senator Raphael Warnock won. Bottom line is this here. When you see all of that blue, a lot of those are your suburban counties that jump out. But here are the actual results as we stand right now. Senator Raphael Warnock, 1,941,000 votes, 49.42%, not getting 50.1%. Herschel Walker, 1,906,000, separating them about 35,000 votes. The Secretary of State announced it is going to a runoff, and here's why that is now significant. After 2020, remember what happened. The Republicans immediately changed the laws there in Georgia. And so you remember, the election was in November. The runoff was the first week in January. What they did was cut it in half. The runoff is now December 6th. Also, you had opportunity after the November election for people who did not vote, people who were not registered for the general election, to then get registered for the runoff. They changed that. Guess when the deadline was for the runoff? It was Monday. So even though it's now a runoff, if you did not register for the general election, you now cannot vote in the runoff because the deadline was Monday. If you registered after the deadline took place, you can register, but now you're talking about it's Monday. And so again, we're looking at that. And so they changed those particular rules. And so really what should be happening right now is an intensive focus on the ground, every single day. And I've been tweeting this and posting this. Every single day matters now because the calendar has been shrunk. And so when you talk about giving resources, and I said this as well, and I put this tweet out, and I said, look, if you want to send money to the campaigns, that's great. But I think it's going to be an air war. It's going to be a ground war. And I believe the ground war is what's going to be the difference as opposed to the air war. The consultants are going to dump the money all on television, but I think it should be on the ground. And so what I'm encouraging folks, there are 3 groups. I've worked with them directly. If you want to support the folks who are on the ground, support Black Voters Matter, support the New Georgia Voter Project, and then support Georgia Stand Up. They are on the ground, knocking on doors, and not just in Atlanta. They're going to Swainsboro, Statesboro, Albany, Athens, Savannah, Columbus. They're going to Augusta. They're going to these non-major cities because that's also the key, reaching the Black folks who are in those areas. That is what is critically important when you begin to understand the election. If you look at the race with Sherry Beasley, she lost by 135,000 votes. But guess what? She was dominating in urban areas, losing in rural areas. Congressman Ted Budd, how did he win? Suburbs, and rural areas. And so they also did not do well in the eastern portion of North Carolina in the Black Belt. And so that's why we're talking about mobilizing Black voters. And so that is important, folks, as we begin to understand and unpack what's going to happen with that particular runoff. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's about us. We are in sunny South Dallas. The election is coming up. It's super important that folks know who they are voting for, but more importantly, what they are voting for. Y'all, we got the free shirts and free lunch right over here.
Freedom is our birthright. No matter what we're up against, we're sending a message in Dallas and Texas and in this country. We won't back down. That's what this bus tour is all about.
The housing cost is one of the most capitalized areas that we have found. People who are marginalized, that are brown and black, we are suffering the most, and I think that we have the biggest vote and the biggest impact in this election.
I'm voting for affordable housing, for sure.
We should not be paying the cost of a utility failure because our elected officials are too proud to say we need help.
I know that we can bring out our people to vote. It's a part of our birthright. Right. It's a part of our heritage, and surely it's a part of our present and part of our future.
That's right. That's what's up. And we won't black down. Forward that message to 5 friends, because in that message, it's got links to how to get registered, how to check your registration status.
Like I said, 2:30 we'll start rendezvousing right here on this street. I am voting to let our voice be heard in the rural communities that, hey, we are people too. There are things that we need.
Free shirts, free food, and lots of power.
We are in Longview, Texas, where Black Voters Matter, 365.
Whatever type of oppression a white supremacist throws our way, we will not black down. We are in relentless pursuit of liberation of our people.
Freedom is liberation for black bodies and black communities to make economic change through political power.
Freedom is choice.
We won't black down.
We won't black down.
We won't black down, y'all.
We won't black down.
We won't black down.
We won't black down.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?